Well, Joe, why don't you start off by introducing yourself and maybe some important things that people should know about you?
Well, for some of you youngsters that don't know me, my name is Joe Hale. I've been involved with RCI, IBEC over a third of my life, and I got involved through the works of Mr. Bill Correll, who talked me into becoming a member when all the members basically lived to where they could see Interstate 85. Very small group of good folks, and my experience, a great experience in my life, was being able to help it grow and maintain the integrity of an institute and its members. Over the years, different opportunities arose. We were able to start an education program, and I worked with that about 15 years on the road, traveling to Canada and Alabama and having a universal accent. And for you Canadians, bonjour you all. That's a saying that I did in 1995, and it stuck all over Canada. But we went through a lot of growth. Most of it was good times, and I enjoyed being a part of it.
So, Joe, before you got involved with RCI and IBEC, what were you doing that brought you into the area? I mean, what was your background?
Well, I started working for a building contractor when I was in high school in the 50s, and because that's where the work was and it paid better, and had good fortune after graduating from school. Just one of those lucky breaks, grace of God. In 1956, got elevated to a salary of $5,600 a year, and school teachers were making $1,900 a year at the time. So I stuck with construction, at that time heavy construction on railroad, and took a course in civil engineering with a correspondence course, and of course working 6 days a week, and the workload that they gave you, that was pretty tough. And actually I'd been in all parts of construction trade, and my dad was a journeyman electrician, and I didn't like anything about electricity because I was afraid of it. In 1981 or 82, I went to work for an engineering company. They had a roof deck problem that had been having blow-offs, and a friend of mine who was an engineer with that company asked me to go look at this problem and see if I could figure out what the problem was, and I got lucky and hit it right on the head. They were using the wrong fasteners, and the guy installing them didn't know how to put a tube-lock fastener into a Tectum deck, and showed him how to do it, and then they passed all the pull-out tests after they started doing the installation right. And I told him I'd stay on board with them for 15 days and finish this job, and I worked there about 3 years and started a roof consultant division that they didn't have, and they realized that would promote more work for the architectural department. So we built that. I built that up to as roughly 7 to 8 people doing quality. We now call it quality assurance. and roof design. And then I realized in 1983 that I wasn't cut out to work in a company that big, and started my own company, and I had an industrial job that went well, and word of mouth has led from one to the next, and never did have to do any advertising. It was just people telling me we did good work and would save them money and stay within budget. So it grew into eventually about 35 full-time employees. I got involved with the Institute because of Mr. Bill Carell and his sterling reputation. He actually talked me into becoming a member, and he started telling me about all these young people that were good people and were members of the Institute, like Bob Lyons and Dick Cannon, and some of those folks that were getting things done and were officers in the Institute. So I joined, and after that, Patsy and I have never missed a convention since then, and I think that's probably close to a record that we've never missed a convention since the one we held in '85, I think, in Orlando. I met another good friend who has been a stalwart and a real stable, good member in RCI, in Art Sark. And Art did all the heavy lifting and started our first RCI chapter in Florida. But in all, it's been networking and meeting some good people, people that have been valuable to me as resources, and hopefully I've been able to help them some.
So what would you tell somebody starting out in building enclosure these days? What kind of advice would you give them?
Well, it's pretty important to know what you don't know, and that's a big task of taking care of all 6 sides of a building. So with that, I'd give them advice to join the Institute, take advantage of the education part, but also use networking and learn the people that know EPA systems and people that know about air entrainment and air getting into the building. A lot of good people that have special knowledge, and there's no better place to meet them. You meet the cream of the crop in the manufacturing groups, and they have a lot of good technical people that can give you advice. But I'd say that there's no better place to network than being an active member in the Institute.
So you've also been involved with the fellows and the foundation. Can you tell me anything about those experiences?
Yeah, I don't remember what year I become a fellow, but it was a great honor to be called a fellow. A very small group at that time. The foundation idea was the best idea we ever had. That and starting a designation of a quality assurance observer, that was another good idea that took off and has done well. But the foundation gave us an opportunity, and I got involved and tried to work hard to make sure that first we invested member money, so the manufacturers wouldn't think it was just another effort to get their money. So the first year we tried to raise $100,000 from the members. And then we started reaching out to manufacturers, and it seemed to work pretty good. Many of the members have continued through the years to donate. Many of the people that we don't hear from very often come through with a donation every year. My good friend Lou Newland, Lou really believed that he was paying the Institute back for what the Institute had done for him and all of his work in life. After we started the Institute, he made a personal donation to the foundation every year. And there was many others that, as their businesses grew and they were capable financially, helped grow the foundation and the credibility of the foundation. We've had some really high quality people on the board of directors, quite a few that come and worked on the board for a few years. I'd like to mention George Kantz. George come out after being president and being gone for several years, come back and served on the board. And there were just too many to name them all, but they were all good folks that did their job well, and we had a good cross-section of the academics and the manufacturers' representatives and the members that are called for in the bylaws that have to be roof consultants.
So Joe, recently you stepped down as chair and now are a director emeritus. Is there anything that you can tell us about why you made that decision? You are the foundation for a lot of people, and that just kind of I know it's shocking some folks. So.
Well, I'm 83 years old and I've lost use of my legs. I don't feel like I can do the job and be as active as I want to be. And it was a time to step down and give somebody else, I hope they have the vision to keep it growing and be a physical conservative and take care of the money we got, stick to our mission statement. I'm very proud of the fact that I wrote that mission statement, and I'm a thrifty writer. It didn't have to say pages, and it just basically said what we're there for. And Mike Blanchett summed it up that we had one job, and that was to collect money and write checks.
So Joe, why don't you tell us your mission statement that you wrote for the foundation?
Well, I don't know that I can say it word for word, but it basically says the mission is to support research and education and a play on words, useful information to the industry. And that's pretty broad scope. The idea was to make it meaningful but not so tight that you couldn't pick up some worthwhile projects from time to time.
Speaking of projects, over your career, was there any particular project or even with the foundation, was there a project that you guys funded that was very special for you?
Well, yes. Probably the first things that we did was getting Dr. Malin at the University of Texas to take some of the documents out of Section 7 of the code and write them in a useful manual that made sense. And we funded those projects and they were completed on time and within budget. And I feel like that our projects over the years in the education part have been done well and give a real primer and good books that people can purchase at a reasonable price. If they'll use them wisely, they can keep them out of a lot of trouble, and they can learn to be good, reliable consultants.
You know, was that the book on low slope roofs?
Well, there were several: low slope roofing and drainage and wind uplift. Those things took something that was very meaningful to the roof consulting part, and they put it in a book form. I don't know how many books there are now available from RCI, but those were good projects, and they were good small projects that we could afford to fund and bring them to reality. We did some early research. Actually, before there was a foundation, we worked with Walt Roster and NIST at Gaithersburg and did research on seam tape and single ply roofing, studying whether the adhesive was right and whether shear or peel was the failure mode. Those were good research projects.
Very good. So I guess folks are going to wonder what you think your legacy is for IBAC and the foundation. Is there anything that you would want them to remember about what you've done and what impact you've made?
Well, ideally, I'd like for them to remember that I always stood up for the integrity of the Institute and the members and held us to the very strictest of code of honor, how to conduct a business, and to give the client a little bit more than they expect. But the main thing is that the Institute stands for respectability and the integrity of the Institute and the individuals that are members.
Awesome. Is there anything that our members don't know about you that you would like them to know? Whether it's a secret hobby or passion that's outside of the building enclosure, but something that's important to you?
Well, for the last 25 years, we're doing this interview on a piece of property that I bought when it was a disaster from Runaway Timbering Company. And since then, I've built 25 ponds on this property and for my neighbors. I've also unsuccessfully tried to reintroduce northern bobwhite quail, and I've been pretty hard-headed, keep trying to do that, and it hadn't worked well. But we've improved the genetics of the deer herd here and have one of the best deer management programs in the area. And we have quite a few black bear on the property. We don't allow bear hunting on the property. And part of this is I've developed 55 acres of feeder fields. And like I said, plenty of watering holes and ponds. Hopefully it'll carry on after I'm not here. And for you people that have farmed in your life, it's a whole lot more fun to farm when you're not trying to make a profit.
Thanks, Joe.
Thank you for your donations for the Joe Hale Public Library of Fort Chiswell.